Good morning. You're watching Morning at NTV, and I know this last couple of days we've been talking about budget review as we gear up for not just the State of Nation address, but also the budget for financial year 2018-2019. And I thought instead of actually discussing the budget for the tourism sector, why don't we break down what brand Uganda is? At 1.4 million visitors in, and he's saying that $1.4 billion a year is what we're making from tourism. But people still question how much we know about our country, domestic tourism, what is being done about that. I mean, many people would prefer to catch a flight, go to Dubai and look at a desert, come back, than actually go to Queen Elizabeth and look at an elephant or a lion. So is it that they're not marketing or selling Uganda to us? Is it their mandate to sell Uganda to us? Or should we know enough about our own country to be our own ambassadors of the country? I know there was talk that there were PR firms that were being hired to actually market Uganda abroad. But you and I should be the first people to market our country. In studios, the man who's at the helm of actually marketing Uganda from Uganda Tourism Board, the CEO, Stephen Asimwe. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you're correcting me, we're from 1.3, we're at 1.4 million visitors.
Yes.
We're making $1.4 billion.
Yes.
I find that hard to believe.
Really?
Yeah, it should be less than that. Or is it that I don't see it?
I think you are...
I'm blind to it.
That's a perception.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you very much for hosting us. And I want to thank NTV for giving us this opportunity. And obviously to thank the guys who are at the monument.
Very passionate.
Very passionate and behind a very significant place.
Yes.
I don't know how many people know what that...
Someone was saying that it's something to do with the colonizers holding us in chains.
No, well...
So that's, as you said, perception.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes.
Yes, anyway, tourism has emerged as Uganda's #1 foreign exchange earner.
Yes.
It has become the single pivotal sector that has shown a consistent trajectory in terms of growth. Just to give you an example, in 1970, Uganda had one of the top tourist destinations in the whole of Africa. We were actually market leaders, very close to Kenya, way above Tanzania, way above Southern Africa countries, maybe with the exception of Zimbabwe, Rhodesia at that time. Obviously, the civil wars that took place took a heavy toll on our country, both in terms of infrastructure, in terms of perception, in terms of visibility. And for many years, we were known for the wrong reason. Idi Amin,
Yes.
civil war, HIV, etc. That had a big, big, big impact. Now, just again to give you an example, in 1986, we had about only 50,000 visitors and less than $50 million. 10, 15 years later, that number grew to 307, around about 2007. Again, on account of some of the issues that were taking place in northern Uganda.
Security.
Security, really.
Yes.
The entire Murchison Falls National Park was under siege by Joseph Kony rebels. Kidepo area had those issues of Karamajong rebels, rustlers. Queen had issues of ADF, bad roads, poor connectivity, etc., etc. That is in the past. 2007, we begin to see a growth. Government opens up. We host the biggest event in the Commonwealth, which was Chogam. And suddenly, it dawned on government that really we should put resources into tourism.
Into this.
Then, you see, tourism is both hardware and software. Hardware is infrastructure,
Yes.
facilities, national parks. We lost hundreds of thousands of elephants, lots of wildlife. You know, things were bad. But suddenly, government put its act together. We fixed the national parks. We increased on conservation efforts, fixed the roads, expanded the airport, started to train guides and tour operators. We had very, very few. We had the majority of the tour operations were under foreign leaderships, you know. But today, as we speak, we have over 300 tour companies. A lot of those people you saw on TV were people who started actually, who joined at very, very junior levels. Yes. Now they are market leaders, people like Amos Wekesa, people like Barbara of Asianut, and many, many other names. We have now seen many, many local Ugandans investing in hotels, not foreign brands. People have invested their money. We have now sunk money in Hotel Tourism and Training Institute. It's going to be a top world-class training facility. We've now opened up the airspace. For instance, you can now fly into Kidepo, can fly into Kasese from anywhere in the world. Okay. We worked with civil aviation, immigration, We've sunk in now more money into tourism promotion. Again, that was a very, very grey area. The government has had to separate tourism from other ministries. It used to be Ministry of Tourism, Trade and Industry.
Yes.
Now it is a standalone
Just
ministry.
tourism, yes.
They've expanded the agencies. So much work has been done. And yet we are competing with very, very big names out there.
Yes, let me ask you before I comment about domestic tourism.
Yeah.
Because you have so much information about Uganda, because obviously that's what you do.
Yes.
What do you think we should be selling? Because our friends, just before the break, everyone was saying their own sports, gorillas, this and this and this and that. And I know we actually still have half of the world's population of mountain gorillas.
More than half.
More than half, actually.
Yes.
What should we actually be selling? What is brand Uganda?
If I was to describe Uganda, Uganda is pretty much like how you have a department store or a supermarket, for lack of a better word. When a customer walks into a supermarket, they've basically come for something that they feel they would like to own.
Yeah.
So tourism is a product. There are those who want to come for adventure, and we have it. There are those who want to come for the weather. We've just come back from Europe. It's blistering hot. We came from South Africa the other week also. It was freezing cold. So there's both parts of the world which are either too hot or too cold. Uganda is pretty much average weather. Uganda is home to the world's largest number of primates, mountain gorillas, baboons, apes, chimpanzees, monkeys, etc. And there are those people who have never seen them. There are those who want to do safari. There are those who want to do mountain climbing. We have it. There are those who want to enjoy the calmness of the beach and the water. There are those who want to come for a faith experience, and we have it. So Uganda is, if you like,
so
a rainbow.
We're not selling one thing.
Yes.
We're selling a bit of everything. Is that a disadvantage?
No. It's actually an advantage. What we need to do now is how do we add value to what we have?
Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
Ngamba Island, you've been there.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes.
Okay.
Celebrating 20 years, by the way.
Yes.
Yes.
And
it's a fantastic story of growth and development.
They've done pretty well with Ngamba Island. If you haven't actually been, please go. But at the time I was there, there were two foreign students who were doing research. And their research was on, I think, two particular chimps. I think behavioral patterns, feeding patterns, different things. And they'd been there for like a week before I actually came there. And when you put these foreign students, Australia, wherever, and me in the same place as Ugandan, our interests were quite different. After 10 minutes or 15 minutes, my interest had, picked down. I said, okay, what are we doing here now? Am I going to see the same chimps, the same? So there's something about value where Ugandans, I don't know if we're expecting too much. We're expecting something different. I'm not sure what Ugandans are expecting when they go to these places. That doesn't seem to get delivered. Whereas you have these foreigners who come in, and maybe they've come in with a particular interest, whether it's research or whatever it is, and they come in to actually get more information. So when you put both of us in the same place, we don't have the same excitement. When it comes to value addition, what are you adding value? And I'll also use Kenya as an example, because I think we're going to the Sarova Lion Hill. And on the way, you have, if there's a farm for mangoes, there's little stops where they've done dry fruit mangoes, fresh mangoes, mango juice. So sort of before you get to wherever you're going, you've experienced so much, which we don't have here. We have a great place for me to go see elephants and the lions. But on my way there, then what? Where can we add value? Is it at the parks themselves, at these tourist places? Is it before we get there? Where can we possibly add value?
That's a very, very good question. And it begs a very good answer. Like I said, there was issues of hardware and software. We needed to, first of all, fix the foundation.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you that I grew up really very close to a national park back in the 70s. My parents worked in a small town called Kilembe. It was back then a very busy mining town.
Yes, very vibrant.
And back in the 70s, we, would go to Mwea very, very easily, Queen Elizabeth National Park. And just to give you a perspective, we had little cobs and antelopes coming into our compound, right next to our compound, and eating away at our little garden and our, That changed in the last 30 years. Obviously, like I said, because of the civil wars, we lost so many wildlife, animals, etc. The roads were destroyed. And I think it was important, first of all, fix that very, very important resource. Fix the national parks, ensure that the roads are passable, fix the landing site, fix the landing areas for boats, fix the most important hotel resource, which was Moya Safari Lodge. And the moment that was done, I can tell you around the areas of Chambura and those escarpments, we have over 40 properties which have emerged as a result of the opportunities that people saw in the national park. And I can tell you Kasese now, Fort Portal, this area around the Rubirizi area, the districts, have now grown as little tourism hubs. Against, by the way, a more stable neighbor who has had 60 years of consistent growth. Now you have to give it to Ugandans for having taken advantage, even in the dire straits that took place. Yes. Having said that, once those were fixed and a lot of the wildlife areas upgraded, you know, we have protected areas, we have game reserves, and we have the national parks. And once the Uganda Wildlife Authority also changed status from Game Parks Authority, etc., now we had to fix the human resource in the national parks. Uganda Wildlife Authority, good rangers, good equipment. Now we are even thinking of buying helicopters, fixing drones. We then said, how do we fix the hospitality industry? The people who serve. When you send someone, if you go to a hotel, we still have challenges in terms of the kind of service that we have. Now that is the software, the human resource. Very, very critical. That had died. But I am glad to say that it is beginning to grow. We have now invested at least $7 million in HTTI in Jinja, and we hope that we shall produce the capacity that our system deserves. That is on the software. On the hardware, we are now fixing the source of the Nile. We're looking at a very, very important resource, the Rwenzori Mountains. We've come out with a marketing strategy, and we are going to fix that place. We are now looking for investors to fix cable cars, to invest in the mountains, in the lodges. And those are really hard steps.
So are you trying to tell me that, yes, we will add value, but there was so much to do that we are going bit by bit to get there?
Yes.
So eventually we'll get to the point where we can then say, now, how can we add value? There's small things, for example, Stephen, I know you've spoken about Brussels, especially using Entebbe as a route. And for you saying that that's already a plus. It means there's interest. People are saying that,
absolutely,
you know, why come here? And Brussels itself, by the time I left, I had so many info packs of Brussels. And not from the airport, not from, you know, the taxis. It's people, you're meeting people on another conversation, and before you leave, they give you an info pack of Brussels. And I'm thinking, I don't have an info pack of Uganda. If I met a foreigner now, as a TV, I wouldn't have an info pack for them. You understand? And I noticed that there's conversations about Uganda. They also define brand Uganda, Stephen. They do. The kind of conversations we are having about our own country. But you already told me before the break, people don't have information. There's a certain group of Ugandans, and a big chunk of them who don't have information about the country. So the information we have is, nah, Uganda and mobile money tax. Nah, Uganda and this. So when they ask, how is your country? That's the first information you have. Where are we in terms of getting Ugandans to understand their country, and also in a positive light, our advantages, so we can sell them?
Well, there's a yes and no there. I will tell you one thing, is that there seems to be our biggest challenge right now is perception and mindset.
Do you want to blame the media for that?
Well,
we do play a pivotal role.
In tourism, we now have a saying that tourism is everybody's business.
Okay.
Because to the extent, for instance, that a local government cannot fix its roads, and you can see the footage there, that is Fort Partico. If the local district does not see value in that resource, where Sir Samuel Baker, you know, freed people who had been captured as slaves, and that is a fantastic opportunity. It takes everybody to fix this country. I'll give you an example. One time we were at the airport, and a traveler, a passenger, I don't know whether he was a tourist or not, you know, collapsed at the counter, and nobody was there to help him. And so we all rushed there, picked him up, and tried to see how fast we could get him first aid. And then someone commented and said, Abobaleke, you know, he mentioned something to do with their race and color.
Oh, no.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm trying here to sell a country, but I need this basics, rare support from everybody.
Yes.
And so it set me back. But last week we were in Stockholm, and we were entering a train. We had gone on a promotional drive, and I was wearing a Uganda shirt, and someone comes running to me and says, "Hey, Uganda, how are you? Are you from Uganda?" I said, "Yes." "That's a beautiful country. You have wonderful people, and I have never seen a group of people who are so lovely, so friendly, so helpful."
We are hospitable, though. We are.
So it's a question of, it really demands that all of us be a part of this. But having said that, we have now made deliberate steps to say we must work on this country of ours.
Yes.
And we are going to start with the reception area, the places where people receive others. So we have gone to the airport, and we are now talking to the cab drivers, that when you receive a visitor, you don't talk about mobile money, bagenda kujitaxinga. You say, Uganda is a good country. It's a beautiful country.
President wa phone on
Exactly. so it is what you say. In faith terms, they said the tongue has got the power of life and death.
Speaking of tongue, you know when you're at the airport and you're pulling your luggage and say, go through that. Already.
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Please go through, you know.
Yes.
Pass through here.
Yes.
I said to myself, okay, I'm as a Ugandan, I understand what you're saying, but someone else might not think it's polite.
Yes.
You know, so I guess it needs all of us. So we're just showing a very beautiful road there. And I'm keen to ask you, and I think your answer will definitely be yes, it should be aligned, but other sectors working to also help tourism, as much as the people need to come together, sectors need to work for you to actually work.
Yes.
If we have bad roads, I was watching CNN Marketplace yesterday, and they were running a story, and I think I was just going through, and I had Uganda, and I turned. I said, yes, CNN Marketplace, what are you saying about Uganda? And they said, oh, we have roads, we're working on roads. And then they said, but business is stalling because of bad roads. Someone tells you I have to move trucks and my tires are getting spoiled, my goods are delaying because of bad roads. And they were really showing these potholes. And I thought, CNN Marketplace, the amount of people who could have seen our beautiful country for anything else are seeing our potholes. So are some of these sectors also pulling you back?
Well, yes and no. First, we have to give credit.
They've
UNRWA has done a fantastic job. I can tell you, I've driven in this country for the last 40 years.
There's change.
There's been a tremendous change. Again, this friend of mine whom I met at the station, who became a friend anyway.
Yes.
Ugandans like to make friends at the instant.
Definitely.
He said, oh man, I liked your road from, from Entebbe, the southern bypass.
Yes.
Of course, we still have challenges in the roads. And again, it goes back to issues of funding and some of the bureaucracies that come. And while I'll give credit to UNRWA, they have now moved away from oil roads, and now they have prioritized tourism roads. And that's a plus. And that's because of concerted effort that we put together. We are now talking to local government and saying, guys, you better employ tourism officers in your districts.
And I think one of the people at the Independence Monument mentioned it and said, why don't you have enough information centers in these districts, in these areas, so that I don't have to go to UTB to get the information. My chairman should have an info pack for me about Uganda, about my area.
Absolutely. And you see, paper is expensive. And we print in tons. We are doing maps, we are doing flyers, we are doing magazines, but these things are,
Ugandans throw them away.
Well, you don't keep them. But of course now we are saying, you have a phone. We are digitizing, we're using software, we're using now apps, we are designing apps that are going to
is there an app from UTB?
Yes, we have an app for UTV. Our website is interactive, we are on Twitter. By the way, we are now we are now number 2 to the South African Tourism Board on our Twitter handle. So that's credit for us.
Domestic out of 1,000
international. Out of 1,000 tourism boards in the world, we are rated at number 37 in the world out of 1,000, and only second to South Africa. That is credit to some of our performance.
Speaking of domestic and international,
yes,
Stephen Asimwe, why is it expensive for me to visit my own country or parts of my own country? And I know you're going to tell me it's not expensive, Lave. If you can go and eat at this restaurant and pay X amount of money, you should be able to afford a trip to go see the chimps. But really, there's a mentality for us Ugandans that it's my country, it should be affordable.
Well, I don't know what you mean by expensive, because I will tell you that
we
a
were
national
talking about
park,
Dubai, Stephen.
Yes,
we
yes,
talked
yes.
about
And-
how
and
many Ugandans
Yes.
flock Dubai at every. They make their first 2-3 million Dubai.
Yes. Well, of course, you give credit to Dubai for their...
They have
for their-
marketed
for their
themselves.
marketing.
But what are they marketing?
I will tell you this, my sister, Flavia, that the number of... first, the people who invested in lodges and parks really invested in heavy cash investment.
Yes.
And obviously, that could have resulted in high costs in terms
business.
of whatever. But like I said earlier, now you have high lodge facilities, middle and budget. I gave you the example earlier of the set that when I travel to some of these places, I don't stay with my driver. My driver obviously has a certain level where he stays.
Yes.
And similarly, I go with one or two other more junior people who may not necessarily stay where I am. But I will tell you that the number of facilities in the national parks, outside of the national parks, has grown. And you will find cheap and affordable. Let's leave out the word cheap, but you'll find affordable places to stay.
That don't have to cost me $145
yes,
a night.
Now the Uganda Wildlife Authority has put up hostels and places where people can pay a fair amount of money. And now we are even putting out investment profiles for people to come and invest in these places. There's land close to the national parks. And not just national parks, by the way. That whole area of Rwenzori is not...
Just the tourist section.
There are tourist facilities. There are lodges that are affordable. And I think probably that is the bit we need to work on, the perception that those places are not expensive. Entering a national park is only 5,000 shillings for your average Ugandans.
I think we need to go back to the point where we used to be in school and there'll be one bus, you register like you're registering as students and you all go in one bus and see Uganda and come back. But we're pressed for time, but I want you to...
We needed to answer the questions.
Please answer the questions, and once you're done answering them quickly, I want
Yes.
you to then tell us, going forward, you had some nice plans you were talking to me about. We'll share that. Questions first.
So very quickly, I think my friend asked something to do with Kapchora.
Yes.
About 6 or 7 years ago, Kapchora area was identified as high altitude training facility.
Yes.
And the government, through the Ministry of Sports and Education, is actually building an accommodation facility. They finished the tracks. I went there in about March. That was before the accolades in Melbourne. And there was a Chinese construction company that was working on it. The tracks are ready. And I think that it's a very, very good initiative.
So where are we now?
From the commitments that were made by the Minister of Sports and Education, the government has promised to put in more resources. However, having said that, the training facility is right next to Mount Elgon National Park. Beautiful, fantastic place. The weather sometimes drops to about 6 degrees. Okay. It's a very good place for training. The facilities in Kapchora have been growing, and not very far from that is in Mbale town. So I think that's a good one. Yeah. On faith, what are we doing? Again, faith tourism is something that had almost fizzled out.
But I think we're seeing more churches.
We're seeing growth. This year was a record. We had 4 million people in Namugongo.
I saw the crowds.
Yes, and a lot of that were foreign pilgrims. But recently, our teams were in Nigeria, which has the largest outbound faith group. We have now put on course one of the biggest tour operators from Nigeria. They came here, we took them around Namgongo and all the 24 sites where the martyrs died. They did an excursion of the whole country. They are back and they are saying already their phones are buzzing. So
we're tapping into it. We have less than a minute, but I don't want to let you go without telling us about the War Museum and the Past President Museum. Please.
Yes. Quickly. Very quickly, we are in the process of establishing an extension of our museum, our national museum in Kamocha, and where we are going to set up a place where we are going to showcase the past leaders from the kings.
Also, it's not just the president.
Yes, the kings, the governors, the colonial, and then colonial, and then the post-colonial leadership, where we are going to be basically talking about who they were, what they did, what were their achievements, and of course their failures. And then of course the War Museum will be showcasing, that is separate, we're going to do that with the army. where we're going to be showing our conquests in the past, our weapons, our arrows, to the modern day tanks and frigates and what we are using.
Great
But
stuff.
having said that, very, very quickly, we've hired 3 companies already. We have renewed their contracts in North America, English-speaking Europe, and German-speaking Europe. We are hiring another 3 for China, Japan, and the Gulf states. We hope that will increase our profile and visibility in foreign markets.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're talking about Brand Uganda with the CEO of Uganda Tourism Board's Stephen Asimba. You're still watching Morning at NTV.